With the release of FM23 yesterday, I know a lot of you will be chomping at the bit to get into your first proper save of the year. But maybe you're struggling to find the perfect team to start with. Well, if that sounds like you, I have a little something for you. First things first, if you can name the badge in the thumbnail, then, well, you have my utmost respect. I'll reveal the answer later. I digress. Now, this all started last year during my Treaty United save over on stream, where you could find me Tuesday, Thursday, and Sundays. So why not drop a follow over there? MCK Budapest save starting very soon. We noticed that Ross County in the Scottish leagues had been taken over by a tycoon, and naturally, a lot of people wanted the save file so they could then take over at the newly moneyed club. And it got me to thinking, how awesome would it be to have a place for files exactly like that? And thus, Make This Your Next Save was born. Give people a place to hunt for the oddest situations that Football Manager can throw up organically. In this video, I'm going to spotlight some of the more outrageous scenarios that have been thrown up in some of my personal saves, as well as some of those from members of the community. Show you how to access and get playing with the files, as well as how you can contribute your own save files to the project should anything mad happen while you're playing the game. I've been continuing to add files to the project all year long. I would have hoped to have had even more by now if it wasn't for that pesky COVID that smacked me down last week. Before we get into the technical stuff, I want to spotlight some of the save files that we have so far. First up is South Shields, a team who actually begin life in FM23 outside of the playable leagues entirely. And in case you're wondering about the skin, it's SAS23. You can find a download link for it in the description to this video. After winning promotion into the playable leagues, they were taken over by a tycoon in 2034, which allowed them to propel themselves up into the Football League. Despite him having left the club 5 years ago now, they have stabilized themselves in League One, and as of this year, have just found themselves promoted to the Championship. As you can see here, having won the league by 4 points. How will you do as you take over in their first season in the Championship? Current best players at the club being Alamani Cisse of Sierra Leone, left-sided roundoiter Chris Jones, and the club's top scorer Harry Hobbs. Next we have Roma, one of the giants of Italian football, who have just been relegated from Serie A. After many years of mediocrity leading to bottom half finishes, they finally plunged out of Serie A entirely, coming 18th in the league and being relegated with 38 points. Can you stabilise the club, who are now hemorrhaging money, and return them to some of their former glory? Their biggest standout player is absolute dreamboat Alexander Siegel, who is just ridiculous, and well, I mean, if you hang on to this guy in the second tier, then God help him. But you also can't forget your main strike threat, Gianluca Esposito, another absolutely brilliant player. How did this team get relegated? It's worth noting that this was all done through Sims. I've only taken over the clubs for this so that I can show you a bit more information in them. Now for something a little bit closer to home, both geographically for me and also date-wise, given that it's only the second season of the save. Miraculously, Cambridge United won League One in the very first season of the save and will now play in the Championship for the first time in such a long time. It's absolutely unbelievable. Can you build a squad with what little money you do have to try to survive in a division that contains several former English giants? The biggest transfer the club have made so far is Ryan Watson for £12,000 from Salford, to give you an idea of the level we're operating at here. I have some more of those to show you in a second, along with some honourable mentions, but I wanted to take this time to show you how to get these files and make them work for yourself. The first thing you're going to want to do is go over to the description of this video and find a link to the Discord. It should be right towards the very top. Once you are inside the Discord, you will see a channel called Make This Your Next Save. This is where all the goodies live. Originally, I was going to make a separate website for this, but actually when it came down to it, Discord did just feel like the most genuinely useful way of actually organising all this stuff. And if you do get stuck, this channel is also the best place to ask for help as well, but you really shouldn't need to if you follow the instructions in this video. Once inside the channel, you'll see every single save file has its own individual post related to it, all formatted the exact same way for ease of use. Now, obviously, as more and more save files are submitted to the channel, it will begin to grow and become harder to navigate purely through scrolling. However, if you know the name of a team that is definitely in here, then the search function will work absolutely fine. Just make sure you're searching in the right channel. For example, if I choose Sunderland, if I can spell it correctly, if I can continue to spell it correctly. And that should bring up a save file here, formatted in the same way, where Sunderland are back in the Premier League, for example. Once you find the save file that you are looking for, simply hit the download link. All the ones from me will be through Mediafire, so they should download extremely quickly, and save it in this directory that you should be seeing on the screen now. Just to clarify, that is My Documents, Sports Interactive, Football Manager 2023, because that's what this is for, and yeah, under Games. If the save file goes somewhere else automatically, you will need, of course, to move it into that folder. It should then simply show up as if it was one of your save files for you to load normally. Once the save file is loaded, in this case one with Millwall in the Premier League, all you need to do is go up to the FM page and hit add new manager. Within there, of course, you can either create a new profile or add one of your existing ones. Once you've done that, it's simply a case of taking over any club that you'd like in the save. Doesn't have to be the one that I've suggested, going through the usual motions as you'd expect. And then importantly, once you've done that, you need to retire the placeholder manager that I used to actually sim these. So simply go up to here, select the secondary one, which should still be unemployed, go into home, into profile, and then just hit retire, and that should remove him from the game. And then you're free to start your save. Now, the save files that I've personally provided will all have extremely similar database setups. Do not let this number scare you. It may look like things will run slowly, but I promise you they will not. I use a database setup method where I load players and not the leagues themselves, although we do have a few leagues loaded in this scenario, and it shouldn't really slow the game down at all. But for more information on that, I've linked a video in the description where I go through this in a bit more detail, but trust me, it's a really good way of setting up your saves. However, if you do believe that having too many leagues switched on at this point will slow your game down too much, then you can simply turn them off from here and you should be fine coasting off into the future. It really is as simple as that. If you happen to run into any bizarre scenarios in your own saves and you want to contribute them to the community project, then this is how you can do that. If you go into the pinned messages in the channel, you'll find one at the very top, which is of course what I have jumped to right here. This should contain a complete formatting guide for how to get those things into the server and also how to format the post properly. That way it's just nice and easy for everybody to read. So if you stick to those rules, it should be absolutely fine. But of course, if you have any questions, post them and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now back to more save ideas. Ascoli. Despite spending most of this save file out of the top flight, they have since managed to get themselves into that, and not only that, they have also qualified for Europe for the first time, I believe, in the club's history. But this year, despite a terrible finish to the year, did in fact come 7th and will now play in the Europa Conference League. Can you continue their miracle? Last of the ones I wanted to highlight to you personally was Cadiz. After managing to survive in La Liga for a reasonably long period of time, they established themselves as a pretty solid mid-table side. However, they took a huge step forward in this very season by finishing 3rd in the league and qualifying for the Champions League, surely for the first time in the club's history. Take over now and, well, can you continue their success? And now for a couple of honourable mentions. Everton have just endured probably the worst season in the club's history and have found themselves relegated from the Championship to the 3rd tier of English football. Against all the odds, Hamburg have pulled themselves not only out of the 2nd division in Germany, but also into the Champions League places and will now play, of course, in the Champions League for next season. After an absolutely disastrous season, Sevilla have come bottom of La Liga by 7 points and will now play in the 2nd tier for the first time in over 30 years, or certainly near 30 years. In one of the tightest title races ever in the German 2nd division, 6 teams separated by 3 points, but 1860 Munich returned to the top flight for the first time since the early noughties. There are, of course, loads more scenarios over in the Discord right now, and I will be continuing to add more and more over the course of the year, and I hope that you want to contribute to it as well, to make this a big place where people could just go to find cool saves that they want to do. Oh, and in case you're wondering, it wasn't a real logo in the thumbnail. I got like an AI art bot to make one for me. So there you go. Anyway, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and, well, enjoy your new saves.